I'm Michael Montero for Boxing Monthly. You're watching the Neutral Corner for the weeks of September 5th and September 12th. So the new September issue of Boxing Monthly is out. Check it out. Remember guys, if you don't live in the UK and you can't find this at stores, you can order it online. You can subscribe online from anywhere in the world. You can also get the app on iTunes to get it digitally. Another great issue as always, but buzzkill about the Lee-Saunders fight. Saunders injured himself and that fight is postponed again. It's doomed. I think we'll see peace in the Middle East before that fight finally happens. But anyway, I am going on vacation next week, or on holiday, as my friends across the pond say. So I'm going to skip the ring walk this week. We're going to get right into the review, and then we're going to preview the following 2 weeks of fights coming up. Last Saturday, August 29th, right here in Los Angeles, it was PBC on ESPN, the best PBC card, top to bottom, to date. In the main event, Leo Santa Cruz wins a majority decision over Abner Mares. This should have been a unanimous decision. Judge Max DeLuca scored at 114-114 a draw. He must be smoking crack on the side, but in between judging boxing fights, because I thought that Santa Cruz clearly won. But look, this was a Fight of the Year candidate, and I've been very critical of PBC. This is one that they got right. They not only made the right matchup, but this was two LA area guys. They put on the fight in LA. They made tickets pretty affordable. They put it on downtown at Staples Center, a venue that everybody knows about, at the right time. Staples Center is usually where the LA Lakers play, the LA Clippers. NBA season's out right now, so it was just the perfect venue, the perfect time, and a crowd of over 13,000 people showed up. And the rating, the TV rating on ESPN, was their highest rated boxing broadcast since 1998. It peaked at over 1.6 million viewers. So there you go, PBC. If you build it, they will come. But the fight itself, again, as I said, it's a Fight of the Year candidate. Both fighters combined threw over 2,000 punches. This was just the type of fight where the atmosphere, the crowd actually elevated it. The fight itself was good. I wouldn't say great. It's a Fight of the Year candidate, but it won't win. But the atmosphere being there made it actually even better. I gotta say, you know, there that night, I was like, man, this is really, really great stuff. And just being a part of it, the loud crowd, you know, if the PBC keeps that up. And I realize not every fight can be a Santa Cruz-Mares, but if they give us those fights a few times a year, the PBC will be okay. Now, across town in Inglewood, at the Forum, Shane Mosley, a 43-year-old Shane Mosley, defeated Ricardo Mayorga, a 41-year-old Ricardo Mayorga, in a fight that just shouldn't have happened. It was a freak show. I don't have any numbers as far as the attendance and the pay-per-view and all that kind of stuff. Yes, this was pay-per-view here in America, for those of you out there who didn't know that. But look, I know for a fact there was a Groupon for $19 tickets to go to this fight, and that was the whole week before the fight. I saw this Groupon going around. The parking generally at the Forum is like 15 bucks. So when a ticket to the fight is cheaper than the pay-per-view cost itself, that should tell you something. Shane Mosley hasn't beat a credible opponent since he beat Antonio Margarito at Staples Center here in LA in 2009. Ricardo Mayorga has never been a top fighter. He was pretty much known for being a trash talker. He was a guy that star fighters would beat up on to sell pay-per-views and stay busy kind of fights. His claim to fame was beating Vernon Forrest twice in 2003. So again, this fight was kind of a farce. I know several people that went to it. They had fun. If you're fans of Shane Mosley or Ricardo Mayorga, that's cool. But you guys know I was critical of James Toney fighting on. He fought recently, and I talked about that in an episode of The Neutral Corner. And Shane's starting to scare me. If you look at some of his tweets, some of the things he says, he seems a little off. And I hope there aren't many more fights. He says he's going to fight on, which I don't agree with. I probably won't be ringside for those events. He's mentally with it. I mean, he can hold a conversation and everything, but he's starting to just get a little spacey with some of the tweets and stuff. And the whole press conference where Mayorga slapped Mosley's girlfriend's butt and she cried. Man, that was just, it was kind of a sad scene. It was like some wrestling WWE stuff. You know, I was expecting Hulk Hogan to jump out through a brick wall and rip off his shirt or something. So, I don't know. You know, it's their right to fight on. Shane's healthy, Ricardo's healthy. If they want to fight and people want to buy the fight, that's fine. But as I always say in events like that, buyer beware. All right, so over the next couple weeks, we've got a lot of PBC action. Friday, September 11th, a very, very important date here in the United States. There's a PBC card in Toronto, headlined with Adonis Stevenson taking on Tommy Karpency. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce it because I've never seen him fight. On the undercard, Errol Spence fights Chris Van Herdeen. I'm butchering these names. I've actually seen Chris fight. He fought out here in the LA area last year. And he's actually probably Errol Spence's best test. More on that in a second. But the Stevenson fight. Look, Stevenson is technically the light heavyweight champion of the world because in June of 2013, he knocked out Chad Dawson. But guys, this whole linear title crap, I'm starting to get sick of it. I'm starting to get as sick of it as I am with some of the pound for pound list stuff and some of the head-to-head mythical matchup stuff. Let's get past that and just look at the facts. Adonis Stevenson knocked out Chad Dawson, who was coming off a loss to Andre Ward because he had drained himself. He went down to 168, went to Andre Ward's backyard because Andre don't fight nowhere else, and got knocked out. All right, and Andre Ward doesn't knock people out. His very next fight, or soon after that, he moved back up to 75 because he still had that technical linear title, and Stevenson knocked him out. Since then, Stevenson's done nothing. He had a very close fight over Andres Fonfara, a fight in which he was dropped, he was hurt, he was lucky to get out of there. You know, he won the fight, but he should be rematching Fonfara. We should be seeing that kind of fight right now. Tommy Karpency, nothing against him. He's going to go for it and give it his all. But man, Stevenson is not the light heavyweight champion of the world, people. You got to let go of this linear title crap. I'm not going to get into all the politics and all the money and everything and the networks and all that involved between Sergey Kovalev and Adonis Stevenson. But for any of you who have been paying attention and you know the situation with main events and HBO, Stevenson and Al Haymon, it's clear who's ducking who, who's avoiding who. Even if Stevenson wants that fight, Al Haymon doesn't. I tried to be objective about this situation with Adonis Stevenson, but what can I say? He's fought a string of poor opponents. I'm not even going to watch this fight. But the Errol Spence fight is actually interesting because Chris Van Herdeen represents his biggest test to date. Van Herdeen has been in there with some quality fighters, and he knows his way around a boxing ring. So it'll be interesting to see what Errol Spence does with him. If he takes care of business and gets him out of there, that's an impressive win. This is his best test to date. On the same night, that Friday night in Vegas, Oscar Valdez, the guy who fought on the Bradley Vargas undercard earlier this year in June, the fight I was ringside for at Staples, he is facing his biggest test today when he goes up against Chris Avalos. Chris Avalos is another guy who's been in there with some quality fighters, and he represents a real test for Oscar Valdez. It'll be interesting to see what he shows us because he performed well in June in his win, but he struggled. He was put down early, and he looked kind of one-dimensional to me. So I want to see what he's learned since then. If he looks good against Avalos, that's good for him. It means he's progressing. The following day, September 12th, Saturday, there's a lot of boxing going on. Let's start across the pond at the O2 Arena in London. Anthony Joshua, the best heavyweight prospect out there, gold medalist in the last Olympic Games. He's going up against Gary Cornish. This is a guy that I haven't seen, but he's 6'7", 240, 250 pounds. So size and strength-wise, he matches up to Joshua. So this is another interesting matchup for a prospect that weekend. It'd be interesting to see what Joshua can do with a guy who is physically, at least on paper, as big and strong as he is. Also on that same card, Dillian Whyte, who is an undefeated heavyweight prospect from Brixton, London. He's 15-0, 12 knockouts. He's going up against Dominic Gwynn, an ancient 40-year-old Dominic Gwynn. Can you believe Dominic Gwynn is 40 years old? I must be getting old. The one thing about Dominic Gwynn, he's been in there with everybody. He's kind of a gatekeeper now. And he was once a touted prospect, right? But he's lost a lot of fights. He's never been knocked out. So if Dillian Whyte is for real, he should get rid of this version of Dominic Gwynn. So we will find out Saturday at the O2 Arena in London how for real Whyte is. Yeah. That same day, there's a PBC card at the Foxwoods Resort Casino in Connecticut. Another undefeated prospect from these last Olympics, Marcus Browne, light heavyweight. 15-0, 11 knockouts. One of the better prospects to come out of those Olympic Games for America. Right up there with Errol Spence and some other guys. He's facing his best test today. He's going up against Gabriel Campillo. Now, Campillo has been knocked out his last few fights. He's coming off a fourth-round knockout loss to Arthur Beterbiev in April, but he's very, very experienced. He does have some craft, and he should be able to, I don't want to say push Marcus Browne, but show him a little something in there, right? So this is another interesting fight. You know, not a bad fight for a prospect with 15 pro fights. Not a bad opponent, I should say. The same card, Cornelius K9 Bundridge from my hometown of Detroit, Michigan. He's going up against Jermall Charlo for a 154-pound title defense. This title's paper. It's as paper as this right here, right? It's about as, you know, the change in my pocket is worth about as much as this title. I look at that fight as basically a way to give one of the Charlo brothers a title. That's what's going to happen there. So, moving on. Peter Quillen, former middleweight titleist, goes up against Michael Zerafa. Here's another name I don't know how to freaking pronounce because I just haven't seen the guy. What I do know about Michael Zerafa is he has fought most of his career at junior middleweight. He's only 23 years old. He's fought outside of his native Australia once. And he lost that fight. So Peter Quillen, you know, as much crap as I give Adonis Stevenson, I gotta give Peter Quillen even more crap. You know, this is a guy, again, I'm not gonna get into all the politics that much, but he left a 7-figure payday and a belt on the table because his manager told him he had to. And Al Haymon is good for boxers in certain ways, but he's also bad for boxers in certain ways. When you sign with Al Haymon, you know you're gonna get paid, but you're not gonna get the fights you want, and you're gonna have to fight to his schedule, not yours. Haymon doesn't actually do the matchmaking. He has matchmakers that work for him, but he's the guy signing off on the fight. He's the guy signing off on the deal, right? When you sign with him, you can kind of fall off, you know, in this, I don't know, space where fighters just fade away and we don't hear from them. Peter Quillen has been fighting nobodies. He had a draw with Andy Lee earlier this year. That really was on him. That fight was set up for him to win. He bombed that test. Against Zerafa, of course, he's going to get a knockout win here. It sets up a fight with Daniel Jacobs next year. That's going to be for another paper title. That could be a fight, though, if they do it at Barclays in Brooklyn, that will sell well. So it could be the New York equivalent of a Santa Cruz-Mares. I don't think it's going to quite do that kind of crowd. It's not nearly as important of a fight, but it'll be that kind of regional matchup that can do a pretty good crowd out there in New York next year. It's pretty obvious that's what Al Haymon wants to do here. Of course, the other card on September 12th you might have heard about is Floyd Mayweather's quote-unquote final professional fight, if you believe that, against Andre Berto. All right, let's talk about this one. I have some opinions. This pay-per-view cost $75. It was originally rumored that this is going to be on CBS, free TV. Look, I don't love the opponent. Never would have liked this back when Floyd was trying to cherry pick the guy in 2011. But if it was on free TV, I really couldn't have criticized it. Floyd on free TV, that would have been pretty special, right? Especially for his last fight. But they're charging $75, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, especially when you've got Cotto Canelo in November. That's probably going to be 60, 65 bucks. In October, you've got Triple G Lemieux. That's going to be 50 bucks. That's the pay-per-view value of the year, ladies and gentlemen. But there is a pretty good undercard here. We'll talk about a few of these undercard fights. Valdez taking on Ishe Smith. I don't care about this fight. Some people are excited about it. To me, Martirosyan's a guy who's never lived up to expectations, and at the highest level, he just hasn't gotten it done. He never will. Ishe Smith is a guy that I'd rather watch paint dry than watch him fight. I'd rather run back and forth over a speed bump than watch him fight. Good guy, really good guy. You know, got a lot out of his career for a guy with his limitations, you know. So I can't say anything bad about him. Although I just did kind of diss him, sorry Ishe, but I just don't care about this fight. The other fight some people are excited about on this card, Badou Jack is taking on George Groves, and this is another one that just doesn't excite me. I know my friends watching this over in the UK, this fight probably interests you guys, and I understand both guys are top 10 super middleweights, but right now super middleweight is not a very strong division. And if I thought the winner of this fight was going to fight Andre Ward, maybe give Andre Ward an opponent, maybe I'd care. But we know they can't fight Andre Ward because of the promotional situation with Haymon versus Rock Nation. Badou Jack struggled earlier this year against Anthony Dirrell, the lesser of the Dirrell brothers. He got the win and won a paper title, but it wasn't an amazing coming out party like let's say Elise Selby, him earlier. That was a coming out party, his title winning effort recently. George Groves was dispatched by Carl Froch last year. So I just don't care about this one. It's interesting. If it was a PBC on NBC card or something and this was like the co-feature, I might check it out, but pay-per-view, no. The only fight on this card I'm excited about is Roman Gonzalez, Orlando Salido rematch. These two fought in April in Puerto Rico. Martinez is a Puerto Rican fighter in a Fight of the Year candidate. Now they're rematching in Vegas. I think that favors Salido, who's Mexican. There's going to be a lot more Mexican fans in Vegas. He's going to have the crowd support behind him. So maybe he can get revenge for that loss earlier this year. He was dropped twice in that fight against Martinez in April. And it's hard to drop Orlando Salido. So it'll be interesting to see how he rebounds from that. This could be another Fight of the Year candidate, or it could be a one-sided Martinez victory. I still haven't decided which way it'll go. I do know this. It'll be very interesting for at least the first half of the fight. And it will be the fight of this card. But back to the main event. As I stressed before, Floyd Mayweather tried to cherry pick Andre Berto in 2011. Look, Floyd Mayweather only signs on to fight people that he knows he's going to beat. That's it. He takes a fighter that he sees something in them that he knows he can exploit and he cherry picks them. Or if they're a real threat, he waits them out till they're faded and past their best. They've gotten beat up, they've taken punishment. Or if they could become a really, really big threat, he fights them early. He's a master matchmaker. What you guys need to know is that Floyd tried to cherry pick Berto in 2011 when he lost to Victor Ortiz. He tried to cherry pick him again in 2012, but he lost to Robert Guerrero. So this is a guy he saw something in. Easy money, easy victory 4 years ago. So buyer beware. They're gonna try to market this thing as a battle, and Berto's coming to take the crown from Mayweather, or maybe Mayweather can get the knockout in this fight because Berto has been knocked out before, so maybe Mayweather can get the stoppage. He's not getting a stoppage. Floyd don't go for the stoppage. This is going all 12. It's gonna be rather lackluster. And again, as I always say with these pay-per-views, buyer beware. This is not worth $75. Tune in the following week on Showtime if you're a subscriber, or find a stream online. It's just not worth your money, guys. But if you're a Floyd Mayweather fan, if you are a diehard Martinez or Salido fan, and you want to tune in, and $75 is worth it to you, by all means, go ahead. You know, it's just, we've got 3 pay-per-view cards coming up this fall. And I don't know about you guys, but I know myself, I couldn't afford all 3 of them. I could probably only afford 1 of them. So if you had to make your choice, is it going to be Mayweather-Berto, or is it going to be Triple G Lemieux or Cotto Canelo? I know where my money would probably go. Obviously, this is going to be Mayweather win by decision. I don't even need to break down the fight. We already know what's going to happen, and it's not going to be Floyd's last fight. He's going to fight next year, probably for his 50th fight. If it is his last fight, if it really truly is, I think it's awesome. September 13th, can't come here quick enough. No disrespect to Floyd. He's done his thing. He's changed the game in terms of how the sport is marketed and the money, the dollar figures. He's done some good things for boxers in that respect, but I think we're all ready to move on past Mayweather, past Pacquiao. We're ready to bring in this new generation. So for me, I can't wait till September 13th.